Hello and welcome to this Man United Southern Manx podcast, our third edition of this podcast. Today we've got a stellar cast with us. We've got 4 people on board. We see the welcome return of Nick Grant. Welcome back aboard, Nick.
Evening, thanks for having me.
How was your holiday?
Yeah, loved it, and may I just say, what a great podcast you guys put on last week. Thoroughly enjoyed it by the pool.
Thank you very much. And we have our usual host of Mark Powell here again today.
Evening, chaps.
And we've got Joe? Who's Jay? JP, Joe calling all the way from Chelmsford this week. How you doing, Joe?
I'm good, and you can call me whatever you like.
Thank you very much. I've called you worse, I think.
much worse. I know what you're talking about.
So today's podcast, we're going to be covering obviously the recent Premier League encounters with Everton and the Saints, and we're going to be reviewing our recent cup action as well against Burton, and then we're going to have a look at our recent tops and flops as well and see how we've gotten on with those. So I hope you enjoy this podcast. Again, by the fans, for the fans, Man United, Southern Manx.
I'll tell you what, if they can equalise, and I'm not betting against them, I think they'll win this. 3 added minutes. Can Manchester United score? They always score. The big goal is coming up. Peter Schmeichel is forward.
So first topic of this evening's discussion, we're going to look at the Everton game. A few topics to discuss, obviously. Probably the most prominent one, which would be the return of Wayne Rooney, as well as the performance. And seeing as he's had a little bit of a break, we're going to jump straight in with Nick Grant. What was your assessment of the game?
Yeah, it was quite apparent how the pattern of our other home games seemed to follow with the Everton game. Goal in the first half. Everton did have chances, then we killed them off. The only thing I disagree with from what I was hearing after the event was how it could have gone the other way. Everton started well. Everton had a 15-minute spell. But also in that spell, Lukaku had a one-on-one. Mm-hmm. If we go 2-0 up, all that suggests to me is the floodgates would have opened earlier. So, if someone would have said to me when I woke up 4-0 at home to Everton, who at the beginning of the season everyone was thinking they were going to threaten the top 4, I'd have bit your hand off for it. So, all in all, very pleased.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a game of football, isn't it, after all, at the end of the day? Everton are no mugs. They're going to have chances. We can't expect to dominate teams in the league for 90 minutes every single time and them not have any efforts on goal. So, yeah, I mean, really and truthfully, it's to be expected. But what about you, Mark?
Yeah, I think the pattern of the game was quite evident. I think Everton did have a lot of the ball, second half especially. There was a period after half-time, but they've got no focal point up front, no threat. I can't ever remember De Gea making a save. I thought Herrera was the game changer. He kind of unlocked things towards the end, and you got 3 goals in the last 10 minutes. I think he gave us that control that we needed just to break them down a little bit, give that protection and allow the front boys to go and play. But yeah, I mean, I don't think we was ever in any doubt of winning that game, unlike most reports.
No, it looked quite comfortable, didn't it, really, Joe?
Absolutely. I mean, I've noted down to say a couple of things that the lads have both mentioned already. The first thing being what Nick touched on there, in that if Lukaku, when he's sort of rounded a player and puts it wide the post, puts that in, it's a completely different second half, in my opinion. Added to that, I don't buy into this. It wasn't a 4-0 game rubbish. At the end of the day, it's a 90-minute game. Yes, they had good spells in the second half. They couldn't convert. We scored 4 goals. And that's the way I look at it.
And what a strike from Antonio Valencia. I mean, the waxing lyrical after that game. Absolute belter. I think Ferdinand said contended for the goal of the season. Early shout.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the way you got to remember is that it's also comes skidding off a wet surface, isn't it? So there's a lot more spin. It's coming straight off the turf. It's wet, and he's hit it first time. And really and truthfully, keepers had no chance for it. I know they're perhaps maybe a bit overcritical. I think they're of Pickford, but I think Valencia's hit that well. He's hit it true, and really didn't give the keeper much chance and set us on our way. Really.
It does make a change for Valencia, who usually blasts the ball at the defender's shin pad.
Yeah, front post especially.
It was
the old drill from the cross he likes.
I know I'm a bit harsh there, but no, it was a great strike.
I thought Wazza was by far Everton's best player. I thought he, on his return to Old Trafford, thankless task.
The risk of getting shot down, I think that was Waz's best game at Old Trafford for about 3 years, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it was thankless task. He's sort of playing up front on his own, dropping deep, as we know he likes to. But he was linking the play. I thought he was unlucky. I think he came off when it was only 1-0. But yeah, great standing ovation from the Old Trafford faithful, which was never in any doubt. I think that's the class that you'd expect from the fans up there.
Yeah, you couldn't say that about every club, but I think that was something to be expected and thoroughly deserved for Wayne Rooney and for everything that he's done for us. But it's nice of us to have waited for him to be subbed off before we pelted him with another 3 goals. So obviously it shows a bit of class from us.
Yeah.
We do.
He didn't look happy, did he, either at the end? Did you see his face?
No, he was absolutely screwing, wasn't he?
I think as a club we do that well with former players that return, regardless of how well they've done for us. I think United fans have always shown a bit of class towards their own. I always remember when Karol Poborski came back, at least 10 years after he left the club, and the fans gave him a standing ovation and he got sent off.
Yeah.
So I think United fans are a class apart when it comes to welcoming their returning players.
Well, same with more recently Van Persie, wasn't it? I think he scored for Fenerbahce and was cheered by our own fans for scoring a goal against us. You had Ronaldo, which again was a class act. Didn't celebrate. I think
Beckham had quite an emotional return, didn't he, when he came back? Particularly, I remember particularly was quite. He went from hero to pantomime villain. I think as soon as he got subbed on, he got an absolutely massive standing ovation. And as soon as he got a first touch, he had all the jeers and the whistle. I think it was a little bit tongue in cheek, but yeah, it's nice to see. Something we can be proud of.
Yeah, a bit of consistency, I guess, as well with the Everton game. He went back to the sort of. There was a decision that he had to make in the centre of midfield, so he went for Fellaini, obviously with Pogba out, which wasn't a big surprise, I don't think. I think he trusts Fellaini. But then you saw the part that Herrera had to play when he come on. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. And down the left side as well. I guess we'll touch on it over the next couple of topics, but Rashford was given the nod, not on the score sheet. Martial, a couple of minutes at the end, gets on the score sheet. I think his goals to minutes ratio is right up there.
It's almost as if Rashford and Martial are going head to head with who can come off the bench and perform the best, and then who can start. They seem to be going blow for blow at the moment with that, which is great for us. They both look hungry. I think Martial sometimes can be accused of perhaps maybe being a bit laid back because of his demeanour and the way that he comes across, but he really looks fired up, and so does Rashford, and I think that's apparent when either or comes on and scores or does well when they start, really.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw it, but just on that note, I read an article in The Guardian last Friday with Jose, and this is what he said about Martial. He said, I see a great improvement in the person, in the mood, in the face, in the body language. If you want just one word, it's happiness. He's a happy guy, he's working extremely well, he starts matches, he tries to do well. I think that's what we wanted really after sort of last season. He's really kicking on this season.
Yeah, that's fantastic sort of news to our ears, isn't it? I think in the summer there was a lot of rumours about a swap deal with Perisic, and I think Nick, you were quoting some of his stats last season, and you think actually if he was given more game time, the numbers will follow, and it seems to be coming through so far this season.
Yeah, so a couple of things I'd add on the Martial thing is, I know people say, these are just footballers and they earn a lot of money and they should just get on with it, but there was obviously something going on last season. You know, this isn't a rumour podcast, but you know, there was obviously some things in his personal life. Then you had the constant links of him being sold or loaned out. Also, the number. I know people will say, it's just a number. If you're a young lad and it is a number 9, it's an iconic shirt, for that to be stripped away from you. And then the second point I'd make, because of the form of Rashford and Martial, is anyone really missing even Perisic?
No, I wouldn't say so.
No.
I think you're spot on there. Obviously, Martial had come to England, change of country, young man, had Van Gaal, and then a year later changes to Mourinho. He changes his number. He goes from what was going to be our answer to the 9 problem, which we didn't answer with Falcao amongst others, to being, is he a left winger, is he an attacking left? So I think he's kind of managed to get through that. Took some stick alongside people like Luke Shaw last season, and I think he's all the better for it. And I think we're reaping the rewards now.
Yeah, and it was strange with the Perisic. I think rumours left wing. I'm not sure it was ever needed. I think if you're looking for a attacking player, the right side is the weak area, because it doesn't seem like we will play Rashford or Martial over there. So you left to sort of Juan Mata and Lingard. So I think there's an argument to review that again.
So I think we can all agree, it was a pleasing performance, a 4-0 win, again a clean sheet, another 3 points on the board. So so overall, Joe, how would you summarise that fixture for us?
Yeah, listen, we're not going to dominate teams from minute 1 to minute 90 every single week. We've scored 4 goals. We've played well. All in all, I think we've got to be happy with that, though.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Anthony, how pleased were you with your performance tonight and your goal?
We play good today, and with Jesse, we play with Juan. We play good, and I hope Saturday we win again. It was a good game. We continue like this.
Okay, so moving on to the next section, and we're going to be looking at the recent fixtures with Burton as well as Southampton away. Mark, Rashford, what was your thoughts?
Yeah, Rashford, started up front, through the middle. Loved it, loved his performance, loved his early goal. The second one was absolute stunner for me. First touch out his feet. Rasping drive.
He just looked really hungry, didn't he? Just like he wanted to make an impact early doors. Lovely little finish. Really, really to me that just screams, I want this, I want to prove a point. I want to say something to the manager. That was, to me, what stood out from Rashford's performance above everything else.
Yeah. Game by game, day by day, he's a young Ronaldo for me. I just love watching him. He's exciting, balls at his feet. He looks like he's going to make something happen. I think JP touched on it a couple of weeks ago. But it's exciting. I think we've got a real talent there. Reports in the press suggest Jose wants to sign him up for a new long-term deal. His current contract's up in 2020, so we've already got a good few years left of him yet, but I think long term he's the man. Let's sign him up.
Yeah, absolutely. And man of the match performance from Martial, JP. He was again another one which I really liked. When he scored, when he came on, there was a little fist pump. He looked really buzzing for it. That's unheard of normally for Martial, but he came on and he was brilliant again.
Mm.
Yeah, we talked about it earlier, didn't we? Sort of the difference between last season and this season. Also, the guy was doing things with his feet that I didn't think possible at times during that game. It was actually making me laugh. He was like river dancing around people. It was unbelievable.
He was like playing 5-a-side on an 11-a-side pitch, dragging balls. He was just, it was incredible.
Superb.
Yeah, unbelievable technician with the ball. And I think, with that confidence, that newfound confidence, he's really making the most of it, and he's bringing it into games and he's affecting games. I thought he performed really well. He was outstanding.
Yeah, and rightly deserved the man of the match, I thought.
Yeah, I think Burton at home, it should be a non-event. It should be a foregone conclusion. One thing that did annoy me slightly was we were so wasteful in attack. I was excited every time we had the ball because I thought we could go on and actually score a goal. And I'd have loved to go and made a statement there. I know Jose said after the game that apparently that they didn't want to humiliate the opposition, but as a United fan, you want to see goals. If we'd have gone out and won 10-0, what a statement. But you've got to be happy, through to the next round to move on.
Yeah, it's a comprehensive win for us, is what to be expected. But again, on a nice side note as well, Luke Shaw got 45 minutes, didn't he, Nick? And you've always been a big fan of his.
Yeah, Luke Shaw is we've been waiting for it to happen for seems like 3-4 years now, and when he signed his contract, it was 4 years with the option of the 5th year. Now, who has the power for the 5th year? Because the way things are going at the moment, are we going to let Luke Shaw walk away on a free? Do we give him the extra year, despite the fact I think he's made 48 appearances in those 4 years? People say all the time he looks out of shape. He reminds me of that Michael Johnson lad that City had years and years ago, and the last known photo of him was in a kebab shop.
Yeah.
So I am worried about Luke Shaw. It was nice to see him back. I just don't know, and I can't see a game in the foreseeable future with the run of away games we got. Maybe Swansea away in the cup. I can't see where Jose's going to trust Luke Shaw to start. So the jury's still out for me, which is a shame, because when we signed him, I thought he was going to be United and England's left back for the next 10 years.
Yeah, I agree. I think the size of the challenge for Luke Shaw is pretty clear. When Darmian and Blind cannot get in the team over Ashley Young, I'm not sure where Luke Shaw gets in there, a guy who hasn't played much football. So yeah, I think he's got a big task ahead of him. But similarly with Martial, you put it in on the pitch, on the training pitch, and you'll get the games. So I think that's got to be a challenge to him. He's got to show to be great,
Yeah, I mean, I was quite excited when I saw him come on, but one thing I thought was that it was quite I'd say maybe a safe performance. I know he was only a left back, but it was quite a safe left back performance. He was never going to be under a lot of pressure defensively. It would give him an opportunity to maybe get forward, maybe look like he could do a few dangerous crosses, contribute in an attacking sense. But I don't remember too many standout moments from him. I know he had 45 minutes, but he seemed to play it safe. And I think if it was an opportunity against, a already defeated Burton side by the time he come on, really and truthfully, he could have really made an impact like some of the forward players did. So, okay, maybe didn't do anything wrong, but, would he have really caught the manager's eye? That's what I would say, and I'm not sure if he would have done.
Phil Neville felt the same way. Did you see the comments that Phil Neville had about Shaw's performance when he come on? He suggested that he was disappointed with the way he played, that when you're coming on, if you haven't had minutes, you should be coming on and sprinting to every ball, which I think there's some truth to that, but I don't think those kind of things help. I think it was a little bit harsh. He didn't pull up any trees, but I don't think he was awful when he came on. He hasn't played in a long while. I didn't completely agree with those comments from Phil, to be honest.
Yeah, but onwards to Swansea now, away in the next round, and a fixture we should really be looking to win, I think.
Yeah, I mean, holders. I think Jose loves this competition, and rightly so. It's a nice bit of silverware early. There's none of that sort of, you're going to get picked away at a, non-league team in the second round or whenever. It's pretty straightforward from here on in, and he's a master at winning it. So yeah.
Yeah, and this will always be a competition Jose's had a bit of a love affair with, and he has got a slight arrogant streak. Well, I say slight, an arrogant streak to him. If he wins it again, he goes outright as the record holder for winning this competition.
Yeah, that'll be in his mind, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So it wouldn't surprise me at all if we make it at Wembley again on this one.
Well, with a bigger squad now as well, that's the key thing. I mean, a very changed. Certainly, the back five, the two holding mids completely swapped from the league game. So I think he will use that squad.
There was 9 changes for this game, and I don't know about you guys, but when I looked at the lineup, it wasn't. I didn't look at the lineup and think, oh wow, we put a weak side out here.
And I think when you look at the other competition at the top of the league, you'd probably say, yeah, City spent a lot of money, got a decent sized squad. Chelsea towards the end of the window have. Spurs maybe not, but doesn't seem to be affecting them. And then you look at Liverpool is the one for me that kind of their strength in depth is just not the same. But we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, I would expect us to progress quite far in the competition.
Cool. So moving on to the Southampton game. Always a difficult fixture. Lukaku, JP, scores again.
Scored again, and that is now 12 goals in 10 games for club and country this season, which I think is remarkable considering he's at a new club. The expectation that you have at United for the goals he scored for us. It also means that he's scored in his first 6 domestic games for the club, equaling Louis Saha's record. So yeah, fantastic again. He's taking his chances, isn't he? Every time he gets them, he's snapping them up.
Well, if you sign strikers from Everton, they normally turn out okay.
We've got a good history, haven't we?
Lukaku, obviously, Waza. But interesting you say about the Saha record. That's, I think, he's one that side that gets easily lost in the history books. But fantastic Lukaku again.
Yeah, and I think, he's a bit like Zlatan was the year before. He seems to be the real difference for us up top, and in some ways, I wouldn't say carrying us as much as maybe Zlatan did, but he is providing that for us up top, which maybe we'd lacked in some previous seasons. So, and we've also got Zlatan to come back, so it bodes well for us.
The key difference for me is obviously Zlatan gives you what Zlatan gives you, which is a great deal up top, and holding the ball up and bringing other people into play. But the difference for me has been the way that Lukaku can go in behind, get in behind defences. That's been a massive plus for us going forward this season.
Yeah, and it was the kind of performance that you'd associate with champions. It might not have been our best performance. We really had to dig in, but nonetheless impressive. Nick, don't you think?
Yeah. Again, I think people are quick to, in football, look at other scores, and just because Man City win 5-0 at home to Palace doesn't mean that we will win 5-0 away at Southampton. This will always be a difficult game. They may or may not have had added motivation from how the Carling Cup, or whatever it's called now, final Carabao Cup ended in February for them, because they came off thinking they were better the side, had a goal disallowed at Wembley, so there may have been added motivation then. So to go away from home in the Premier League and come back with 3 points and a clean sheet, I don't think that's anything to be sniffed at. And it keeps us in the hunt. I can see nothing but positive. I know the second half was a bit of a non-event, but I'm taking nothing but positives from that game. Like I say, away from home, when you go away from home in what is the most competitive league in the world, if you come back with 3 points and a clean sheet, you've done your job.
I think if you'd ask any of the top 4 contenders if you could go to Southampton and take a 1-0, I think they'd bite your hand off for it. Really, it's nothing to be sniffed at. So like you said, Nick, a 5-0 at home by City, it shouldn't really be compared to a 1-0 away at Southampton. Like I said, in the last few seasons, I wouldn't have felt confident going to Southampton and getting anything much more than a draw from the game. So again, I think it shows how far we're coming, and I think that we're only going to get better as well. We're only going to get better, we're only going to get stronger, we're only going to get more convincing, but we don't look like we're going to concede, and even away from home. So for me, that was really pleasing. Obviously, a slight negative was the Jose sending off. What did you make of it, Mark?
Bit of a non-event, I think. Bit of a storm in a teacup. They haven't taken any further punishment on him. Jose's great at that. I think he sort of siege mentality. You could see that their game was not slipping, but you saw by his substitutions, Herrera for Mata, Smalling for Mkhitaryan, Blind for Rashford. These are defensive-minded players for all the attackers to hold on to what you've got and protect the lead. Possession stats were, I think, 70-30 in Southampton's favour. It was a game that you take the 3 points and you get off back up to Manchester. I think the sending off was nothing really. He's done a lot worse in his time. But no, for me, happy. 3 points is 3 points. Ferguson was always very good at this kind of digging out the win, as you said, Nick. And that's all that matters.
And I think of the recent run of fixtures of the 5, the 2 preceding this one and the 2 to follow, I would probably have earmarked this one as alongside obviously the Moscow trip in Europe. I'd have said this would have been one of our toughest tests. So far, we've come through unscathed. You could say clean sheets, really. I mean, I know Burton scored in the last kick of the game, but really and truthfully, it's more or less 3 lots of 90 minutes without conceding a goal. So
that's pleasing. I think the 2, although people will look at City's goal difference now with the goals scored, but to only concede 2 goals from a United perspective is you've got to be happy with them. That's only away at Stoke, which was a bit of a frustrating one. Now you look back at it, when I think Chelsea went up there and gave them a hiding over the weekend. It seems like some of these teams will turn up when United come to town, and not so much other weeks.
I think on that night it is a good point. I always look at this and think that game was on TV. That was the afternoon 5:30 kickoff. If you're a family, you're looking forward to United in town. The game's on telly. they're going to be more up for it than if it was just a standard 3 o'clock kickoff. And it's one of their first or second home games of the season as well. There's still a little bit of jubilation and
beat Arsenal as well.
International break as well.
Exactly. Wishful thinking around the place. So probably the wrong time to play Stoke, especially with Fellaini out injured. But you get a point from Stoke. Yeah,
I have to say as well. Excuse me. Looking at us going forward, obviously we've been fantastic at times going forward so far this season. But if you compare us to our main rivals, obviously most notably at the moment Manchester City. For me, the Southampton game and to some degree the Stoke game as well, at times, you've got to look at the way we dug in. We absolutely dug in, and we've proved that we can dig in and we can get results if we need to. You're not always going to win pretty in the Premier League. It's not going to happen every week.
No, exactly. Brilliant, yeah, cheers. Thank you for that, JP. Okay, in the next section, we're going to move on to the Premier League roundup. Liverpool was a game that I managed to see. Can't say it was convincing. 3-2 win. Okay, yep. They got the win. They got the 3 points.
Coutinho back.
Coutinho, marvellous free kick. Vards, Mr. Penn. Could have been a different story, but, if we were in their shoes, we'd probably just write that one off, take the 3 points and move on. So, yeah, but I can't say at the moment that they really are providing anything for us to be scared of, anything for us to be worried about, and I do think that they will flake out and fade away, especially with European competition now. I can't see them having the strength and depth to really challenge.
Not with them centre-halves.
No, not at all. Mark, I know you sort of caught a bit of the City performance, didn't you? What did you make of that?
Yeah, City, scoring goals left, right and centre. You've got to have half an eye on them, I think. They'll be going to be up there business end of the season. I think the thing for me at the moment that stands out is not just Aguero, it's Jesus. Sterling's got 5 league goals. They're coming from everywhere.
Sane,
yeah, it's a good point.
De Bruyne's pulling the strings, isn't he?
I think going forward, they've got so many options. We're talking about Lukaku, Martial, Rashford. Great, these guys are doing well, but City just seem like they're in the groove at the moment. I still think at the back that people can ask them questions. I think up until the red card with the Liverpool game, they were getting in behind, and I think that's what we'll look to exploit. But early season form, they're getting the goals, and it is a striker's moment at the moment at the top of the league.
Yeah, absolutely. The Chelsea game, obviously we drew 2-2 away at Stoke. Chelsea went there and made a bit of a mockery of Stoke, 4-0. Morata getting the hat-trick. What did you make of that, Nick?
Yeah, one of Morata's goals was absolute class. It reminded me of the classic Ruud van Nistelrooy goal against Fulham, where he kind of ran from the halfway line. I know Morata didn't quite do that, but then had to quickly shift his body weight and slot the ball past the on-rushing goalkeeper. And that was kind of like what Morata did for one of his goals. Shift his body weight.
Yeah. On
Sky Sports, they froze it, and it just shows you how awkward Morata's body was, but he still managed to score that goal. We were linked with him. I would still take Lukaku over Morata. It will be interesting to see Chelsea, if Morata goes off the boil or picks up injury or suspension, now that they're getting rid of Costa. But I suppose the same argument could be labelled against us if something happened to Lukaku. But it was an impressive win for Chelsea.
Yeah, and in the Spurs fixture, JP, you happened to have first-hand. You were there, weren't you, Joe? So what did you make of the fixture? And obviously, speaking of strikers, Lukaku scored, Aguero scored, Morata scored, obviously Kane scored as well now. What did you make of their performance?
Yeah, I think it's really refreshing that we've got sort of 3 or 4 players, recognised strikers that are scoring lots of goals. You get it a lot in Spain, obviously Ronaldo and Messi banging in large amounts of goals. I think it's really good to see a few different people doing the same here. I was at the game. I was at the London Stadium on Saturday. Spurs absolutely dominated. Kane obviously being the focal point of that. Everything was coming up to him, whether he was running in behind, whether he was getting on the end of it with his head, or just bringing people into play. I think he really is on the way to being a very complete striker, and I think he will be right up there in terms of goals scored at the end of the season. To be honest with you, the game itself, Tottenham were a class above West Ham from the moment it started. The scoreline didn't really reflect that in the end. The dynamic did shift, obviously, when Aurier got that second yellow card and went off, and West Ham dragged themselves back into it. But I thought Tottenham done a good job. They look convincing going forward, equally solid at the back up until that sending off. And yeah, maybe haven't got as strong a squad as some of the other teams up there, the Chelsea's, us and City. But I think if they can keep their first 11 fit, they will be back up there again at the end of the season.
And tactically, Joe, can you see any weak spots that we talked about City in behind with our pace? Can you see anything that stood out for you for when we play them in our upcoming fixture?
I think the only thing I would say is obviously most of their width, or nearly all of their width, comes from their fullbacks. So again, you can get at them there. If we can get the ball wide into wide positions to Rashford, Martial, whoever might be out there, we're so good on the counter. If we can get them on the counter, I think we can exploit them in the fullback positions or the wing-back positions without a doubt.
I think with Tottenham, it all depends on when we play them. I would fancy our chances if we played Tottenham directly after a European game. I don't know if that's how it falls, but if you look at Tottenham's history of managing other competitions, for all the praise Pochettino gets, and probably rightly so for the league and the way he manages players, he doesn't manage other competitions well. A couple of years ago, completely mugged off the Europa League away at Dortmund. It was embarrassing. Last season, didn't pull up any trees in the Champions League. Right. It would be interesting if our game with Spurs fell directly before or after an important Champions League game, because I don't think Spurs have the squad to manage both competitions, and there's only so much the fans will take of going, yeah, I don't mind you getting knocked out of every competition as long as we win the league, but I don't see them winning the league.
No, I think it comes to a point where they need a trophy.
Yeah.
I think it's all well and good playing a certain style, blooding English players, etc., etc. You've got to win something in the day. You don't get a trophy for finishing second. It's a good achievement, but it doesn't go in your cabinet.
Just to pick up on what Nick said about the fixtures, just so you're aware, we play Tottenham on the 28th of October, which is a Saturday. And I haven't looked at their fixtures, but our game prior to that is the previous Saturday against Huddersfield Town. So unfortunately, I don't think it will be directly after a European game.
Okay, fair enough. And I mean, I think I said this to someone the other day, and it didn't go down too well, but I don't shy away from my opinions when it comes to football, and I think Tottenham are in exactly the same boat as what Newcastle were 15 years ago. They're entertaining. People like to see them. They seem to finish second a lot, but Newcastle didn't win a trophy. And like you say, I think Spurs will have to win a trophy, even if it's just a League Cup. Going back to 10 years ago when we were having a bit of a barren spell, we won that League Cup against Wigan.
Yep.
The year after we won the league, the year after that we won the league and the Champions League.
It's momentum, is it? Winning mentality.
Yeah, and it was almost the first trophy we won with that new team, wasn't it? That League Cup, that sort of
Rooney,
started it all off, as you said.
Vidic, Evra.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's just where Spurs are. They're great to watch. They seem to be everyone's favourite second team.
I think it's quite trendy, Spurs at the moment, with the likes of Kane, Ali, etc. New stadium, Wembley, POC. It's kind of a lot of buzzwords floating about, but it needs a bit of sustenance, I think.
Yeah, no, agreed. And elsewhere, you had Brighton, after a slow start, picked up their second home win of the season. Watford, an early pick from you, Joe, I know, again picked up another 3 points, a late winner there. An interesting week in the Premier League again.
Arsenal back to winning ways, but 3 points.
Yeah,
on Monday
again,
night.
another striker, like I said, another couple of goals so far. He's been impressive. So
And Hastings' own Gaza Baza, Gareth Barry, breaking the Premier League appearance record,
and also probably breaking his back in the process. I don't know how he's still going. To be fair, he seems to be the
I
old...
don't recognise it anyway, lads. To be honest, I think it's tosh because when records started at the beginning of the Premier League. I mean, there's players that have had so many more performances.
Yeah.
In fair play to him, but I don't really recognise it.
No,
Yeah,
no.
it's a good point because I know we're obviously going to be biased being Man United fans, but Ryan Giggs is still some way out if you look at top level appearances. It's because Ryan Giggs started before the Premier League was born, so I think it's a good point that Joe raises.
Yeah, and Giggsy actually came back to Barry and said, my record's better because I did it at a better club.
Yeah.
So it's longevity at a better club. So.
But yeah, well done, Gareth Barry. We've just
love you, Gareth. Local,
rained on
well
your
done.
parade.
Well done, well done.
Okay, so that was the third edition of the Southern Manx Man United podcast. I hope you all enjoyed the show. Just a reminder, we'll be back on the air on the 11th of October, where we will be previewing the big clash away at Liverpool, also Benfica in the Champions League. Please, guys, if you've enjoyed or not enjoyed the show, leave us some feedback. You can find us on YouTube, Southern Manx channel, and also on Twitter at Southern Manx. Guys, I really hope you enjoyed the show and look forward to our next one in a couple of weeks' time. Okay, from us all at Southern Manx, take care and see you soon. Cheers, bye.